Great. Hi, everyone. This is Lauren Baker, founder of Search Engine Journal. Welcome to today's SEJ webinar brought to you by our friends at Sochi. We are today with us. We have Casey, Michael, and Allison, all of the team. I'll let you go ahead and do a quick introduction before we do our housekeeping, and then get started with the presentation.
Awesome. I can kick it off. So my name is Casey McBride. I am Sochi's Director of Customer Experience. So with that, I manage a team of what I call kind of the subject matter experts. So we have a great team of SEO, social media, data analytics. But my heart, soul, and passion is in SEO. I've been working in the SEO industry for 8 or 9 years. I used to work at Dick's Sporting Goods, actually. So I am thrilled to be here today and talk to you all about innovations with local SEO.
And I'm Mike Snow. I work on Casey's team. I'm a SEO analyst here at Sochi, and what I like to joke, a local SEO evangelist, because as we know, or hopefully know, that SEO is something that never ends, and you have to keep people excited about it. I've been with Sochi for about 5 years now, and just working on websites for a lot longer. So yeah, happy to be here to talk to you today.
And I am Allison Mueller. I am a senior product manager here at Sochi. And after Casey and Mike give you all of their, insights into all the innovation that's going on with local SEO, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about an exciting new product that we have here at Sochi to help combat some of the changes and the challenges that we have in the local SEO world. So thanks for having us.
Amazing. And we have a multifaceted webinar today. So as I'm sure many of you have seen, there is a chat box. We'd like to just go ahead and get everyone started by just filling in where you're coming in from, right? So I see there's folks from Phoenix, Arizona, South Africa, multiple other places, Quebec, Nashville. Go ahead and fill out where you're from. Gives us kind of an idea of our audience. Also, we will be having a Q&A session after the presentation is over. So as questions are coming up, please go ahead and enter them into the Q&A box. Then we'll be addressing them as needed during our live Q&A. We're also going to have 2 polls. We highly encourage all attendees to answer the poll questions. Not only does it give us great information on you, but it's going to help everyone pretty much craft their delivery based upon your answers. We also have a handout under the handout section, which is a 1-pager that will be brought up later. But please feel free to download that PDF right now if you can, and we'll remind you a little bit later on that. And then at the same time, you'll probably see a lot of different emojis at the bottom of the screen. Smiley faces, celebrations, hearts, laugh out louds, etc. Feel free to click those right now, or as interesting topics are brought up. The hearts and the raised roof are leading the pack. And so that's pretty much everything from there. And the final reminder that the video and presentations will be made available for all attendees and registrants after today's webinar. That's the question that we get the most in the chat box. So I just wanted to go ahead and answer that right now. And on that note, I'll go ahead and hand everything over to the team. All you guys.
Awesome. Mike, do you want to kick us off? I think you are muted.
I am, and I apologize for that. So today we're going to be talking about unlocking the future of local search and the local SEO best practices that go along with that. Again, you've already met the team, so thank you again for welcoming us. Any conversation? Oh, I think we're starting out with a poll, actually. So yes, and apologies for this. So we want to just start off really just by getting a sense from all of you. To what extent does your company prioritize local SEO? So we'll give you a second to answer that.
And the responses are coming in. So to what extent does your company prioritize local SEO? We are focusing on local SEO. We incorporate local SEO occasionally. We seldom prioritize local SEO, or we do not focus on local SEO at all. And local SEO is always something that I think can be a misunderstanding, because pretty much in almost every industry that you compete in, Google's going to serve localized results regardless, right? So it's always one of those things where you have your own local SEO, and then you have others, or your own maybe national chain, and you have others that are in the specific area. So it's always interesting to see from a results standpoint where things lie. We have 9,300 responses already, so I'm going to go ahead and share those. So we have an overwhelming 46% do have a dedicated team on local.
That's
20. Yes, exactly. 29, and these are live responses, so they may change as I'm running through them. So 28% incorporate local SEO occasionally. 15, now down to 14%, seldom prioritize local SEO, and then around 9 or 10% do not focus on local SEO at all, which is quite interesting. Any thoughts on those responses?
That's actually amazing. I love to see that. And I think, and maybe it is because I work with a lot of big brands who maybe don't have the ability to do that. You know, you have some that are, you know, have products and things that they're selling also, and they're focusing on SEO and not local SEO. When you're talking with businesses that their local is their SEO, you tend to get a lot more of that. So it's great to hear.
Yeah, I think when we're working with a lot of brands at kind of that enterprise level, I often find myself talking to like SEO generalists who are trying to do it all and learn it all and take it all on. And so it's always very interesting to find the unicorn in those companies that's like firmly dedicated on local. But it is nice to see a lot more companies are employing folks. They're seeing more of the value of why having somebody who is experienced in local specifically can be so valuable. Cool.
Great.
All right.
So let's go on to the meat of the topic, which is around the future of local search. And especially lately, probably even past year, any conversation around the future of local search inevitably goes to the role of AI. How can it not, right? With SGE, AI overviews, ChatGPT coming out, everything that's going on, that is always going to be the question. And the two questions are there's two different questions that come out of it around AI in general. And one of them is how is AI going to affect my search visibility? Very valid question, because we expect search will change. We've seen some of that. We've seen some good launches, some bad launches. And then also, how can I use AI to improve my SEO, right? There's a lot of things you can be doing, but how do you know when to do them and what you should be doing? So we're going to look at both of those today in relation to the future of local search. And so I'm going to start with how AI is going to affect my search visibility. I'm going to tackle that question first. And if you've been reading the blogs, if you've been looking at search results, hearing about Google's, the AI overviews, the consensus probably seems very negative, like it's going to hurt you in some way, that Google isn't doing a really great job. But a lot of that conversation is around organic SEO and not necessarily around local SEO. What we've been seeing is just the opposite. And what's really nice is there was an article that came out this week from the team over at Near Media who kind of validated this, which is the fact that we're seeing an expansion of local visibility. There's more opportunities for discovery. And I think this goes to Google thinking about what is really important to people. And also probably a little bit about being a little aware of social nipping at their heels, right? So they want to be able to provide more information for people and be able to really focus in on what they're looking for. And you've probably seen a lot of different types of new local knowledge graphs showing up. So things beyond the local pack, things like, if you can see this here, thrift stores and dollar stores that show up as extra carousels below the local pack for discount stores near me. Things like what people are now calling the quad pack. These other little 4-packs that show up down the search results that don't necessarily have a heading, and you might wonder why these are showing up. I'll actually go into that a little bit later. And then there's also, as we've seen probably for a while, you probably have noticed these things like find places through photos. There's all sorts of things, find places through dishes if you're in the restaurant industry. So Google is coming up with lots of new ways to present search results. You may even seen there's a test coming out that people have seen right now called the iPack or the Infinity Pack, where it's just knowledge graph. So again, more opportunity, not less, is what we see. Additionally, we see more opportunity for Google to provide information directly relevant to the search query and more information about the business in general. One thing that's really cool, if you've seen it, if you've looked up an individual business, a restaurant specifically, and they have enough reviews and enough dishes highlighted, Google is creating these really cool animated about section slideshows where they're pulling in images. They're giving you images of the vibe. They're pulling in reviews that talk about the vibe, that talk about the dishes. It's about 8 images there. And it's obviously doing this through some sort of AI. It's different per restaurant and only appears if you have enough. Another test that we saw about 2 months ago, it kind of appeared and disappeared, but obviously if Google's working on it, it's something that they feel is important, is this about this place. We found this with a lot of businesses that provide services as opposed to products, where Google is giving an about this place that shows some of the things you can expect. So here's one for a gym, and you get this about this place. And there's little tabs that seem to be driven by reviews and review text, what people are talking about. So free weights, pool, locker rooms. The next one I think was clean. And if you click on those, you got reviews and images and things from customers that support that. So again, Google is giving more information and giving you more of a reason why that you may want to click on that business. And lastly, we've definitely seen a lot more qualified leads. 2 years ago, you probably would have seen a local pack in almost every search you did. Over the past year and a half, we've seen that reducing more and more. And it's not Google saying, well, you don't get local results. It's, they're probably looking at customer behavior and saying, well, this query for, let's say, home help, I looked that up yesterday. Home help was no longer bringing up a local pack. But home help near me or home help in my area, city, whatever, that would bring up a local pack. So what that says to me is probably Google saw that most people looking up home help were looking for it informationally. There wasn't a local intent there. So what we've seen is customers, they may have seen a drop in impressions, but their actual actions haven't changed as much. So that's good. It's kind of, it's narrowing that down to a lot more qualified leads. But in this world, right, of search, where Google is providing more opportunity, where they're providing more information, where leads are really narrowed down, what is changing about how you should optimize, right? What is the future of local search optimization? Well, I will say the important things are going to remain important. Things like your legal business name. And I say legal business name, please don't change your name to add keywords. It might help you in the short run, but you're just cheating the game, right? What you want to be doing is building your reputation, right? Reviews are still going to be hugely important when it comes to SEO. Proximity is still going to play a big role in your main category, right? Those 4 things are going to still drive a majority of SEO. But I think, and we'll get to this later, it isn't always about being number one. It is about having enough information that when a choice is presented to the customer, you are that best choice. So we're going to talk about those things to do. And I'm going to start that off by handing it off to Casey.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Mike. But kicking us off here, talking about this concept of like brand or website authority. If you are here, you are probably familiar with the Google leak that broke the internet a few weeks ago. If you are any type of SEO, I'm sure that you saw or read about it. I am not here to contest what the leak is or isn't or does not do, but there were a couple notable things that I think are worth bringing up that we kind of noticed out of this. And one of those things was this concept of site authority and entities. And, some of the validation that we saw is that idea that it's really important to build up your brand, not just on Google. Actually, Brand's quote was, build a notable, popular, well-recognized brand in your space outside of Google search, Google wants to see your brand relevant for things on more than just your website. Do you have social presence? Are you even like marking up your YouTube videos and having like closed captioning on your YouTube videos it's looking at? And then just at the local level, building up your local presence. So do you have the right type of local content kind of boosting your individual locations? There was actually an article also that Mike Blumenthal, I think, wrote this week, maybe, or last week. And he had a really great quote that I'm going to read. He said, all local businesses need to move away from SEO tactics that attempt to directly influence Google search results. Shift effort into local brand building. Think about relationships with local nonprofits, articles, and the local news, and validation by local business groups, which can be really hard to do if you're managing a location that has, or managing a brand that has like thousands or even hundreds of locations, right? So some of those micro moments and building up your brand at that micro level and getting your authority out there are going to continue to be very important. And then the other kind of notable thing from the Google API findings were all of these different documentations about clicks and length of click. And when I read that, it's, for me, kind of one of the more obvious things, right? Like you want to get clicks to your website, you want to entice users to come to your site. But I think optimizing for clicks and that click-through rate are really important. Have a really strong meta description with enticing copy, really treating those clicks as almost like upvotes for your website to try and improve your search results. But even this concept of like click length was something I found very interesting. So do you have engaging content on your website that causes folks to want to stay on your page for a longer amount of time? This example here on the screen actually comes from Trader Joe's local pages. So this is on their actual like local business page where there's like recipes and engaging content for customers to actually like get involved. Like maybe they landed on you just to find your name, address, phone number, local information, whatever, but they're going to stay to read the recipes, to get involved in the brand. Having that kind of engaging content there to keep them locked in. Mike, you're on mute again.
Thank you, and sorry. I have dogs, so I try and stay muted when I'm not on, just in case that mailman shows up. Shelfies, this is another one. I've been talking about this for a while, ever since Google coined this term. I want to say it was the beginning of last year. They were in a conference. Someone said, see, there we go. Shelfies.
The home phone, ladies and gentlemen.
So shelfies. So shelfies are defined as Google defined them, pictures of the products in your business and on the shelf where Google and the consumer could get a really solid idea of what the place looked like and the range of products you were offering. What really jumped out at me and why I've kind of held on to this quote is that it doesn't just say consumer, it says what Google can get, so Google can get a really solid idea. That says to me, Google is looking at these things, which wasn't surprising to me at the time. Google's Vision AI had been out for a while. We saw what Google, what images put through Google Vision AI, what kind of information is spat out. But images do a lot of really great stuff. And it's something that I think most businesses know they need to pay attention to, but never find the time to do. So I want to just point out a couple things of why this is really important, especially as we get to where search is right now. Number one, you've probably seen Google is using a lot more photos in search results. And they're trying to use the photos that are most relevant to the search query. So what we see here is saxophone rentals near me. This picture, if you can see it, is a picture of saxophones on the shelf, that first picture right there. That makes sense. Google's trying to find something that's directly relevant to the search results. And this extends beyond product-based things, right? If you're searching for, apartments with pools, you're going to get apartments with pools as a picture. If you're looking for, eye care, you're going to get, if you're looking for, let's say, a doctor versus a specific type of doctor, you're going to get a difference between an office versus the actual procedure, or what they're doing, whether it's eye care, whatever that might be, dentist. But it also, beyond being something that Google's using to try and highlight a product, highlight a service, It can also highlight the actual individuals at the place. So some recent studies have shown, going too far, that photos can be a major consideration in YMYL or personal service type businesses. A really great example of this is Mike Blumenthal was on a podcast last month and was highlighting some research that Near Media is doing where they're looking at customer behavior. And one of those customers they looked at was physicians. And what they found is people looking for physicians tended to skip past the local pack, go into the Finder, look at all the results, look at those that are highly related, and then look at the photos, because they wanted to find someone, a doctor, physician that they're engaging with, that they felt they could share their problems, that would be listening to them, right? You want someone, as I think Mike put it, is of their tribe, right? And maybe it's not someone that looks just like you, but just someone that in your mind conjures up someone that is safe and is going to help you, right? Let's say you can probably expand that into, let's say, financial decisions. Let's say you're a money manager. If I'm looking to put my money in someone's hands, I want to make sure that they're on my side. I probably want to find someone that looks, feels like me, seems like someone I trust, right? Instead of a parking lot. So there's another one that baffles me is child or kid services, things like tutoring, sports, things like that. You have no idea how many kids sports program listings have a picture of a parking lot and no kids actually playing sports, right? If you're a parent, you want to see that this is a real thing, right? And that kids are having fun. So it's important when it comes to that. Another thing I get asked a lot is Google is showing really terrible pictures on my listing. Well, Google has confirmed that high quality photos uploaded by the business are preferred by Google. So if you don't like the photos that are there, upload more of your own. Eventually, those will take preference, especially if they highlight and represent that product or service better than the ones that are there. And lastly, photos can be a ranking factor. It's hard to see sometimes, or hard to prove out. I mean, in a case like this, you might go, well, if they're the only ones that sell saxophones, yes, they have a picture, they're on top. How can you prove that that's a factor? Well, I have a really good example of this just kind of live in the wild of how Google is understanding things. And it's really going to be a big help with those additional search opportunities to be found in search. So here's a great example of this. The quad pack we saw earlier in one of the examples where I searched for toy store. And what I got was this quad pack where we had things like, the Dollar Tree showing up, a couple antique stores, a department store. The Dollar Tree and department store makes sense. They probably have product feed. They might see toys. That makes sense to me. But when I looked at the antique stores, I was wondering, well, why are they showing up in the feed? Why is Google presenting them not in the local pack, but down below as maybe an alternate choice? Well, here's why. When I get a little closer and look at the photos, this little photo here, which you probably can't see, once I click into it, it's a picture of toys. Google has seen that there are pictures there. There are toys in those pictures. It understands that they are toys, and is presenting an alternate option in the additional knowledge, local knowledge graphs that are appearing. So a couple other things I didn't put here, but just to know, you may have seen if you click into photos in your business, you may see new tabs appearing. Like usually it's owner uploaded, customer uploaded, recent. With restaurants, you may get Vibe, you may get an inside, outside. But you might get other things too. With apartments or properties, if you have enough things, you might get an amenities tab that shows up. If you're restaurants, you get dishes that appear. For gyms, I've seen different types of filters appear. And testing that we're doing is you have to kind of come to the conclusion that maybe those are ranking factors, right? If Google is creating a tab, it knows that about the business, right? That could be something else that is helping that business rank. There's a lot of things going on with photos, just kind of teasing that one. But if you're not taking advantage of this, I think you're missing out on a lot.
Absolutely.
You want anything on that one, Casey? I know.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like Google has been pushing photos more and more and more on business listings. I still remember back, God, this was probably 2019, noticing that if I typed in a search for like baseball bats, Google would prioritize a Dick's Sporting Goods listing that had like photos of the baseball bat, and it would serve that photo up in my results. So while the amplification of this is getting more and more ramped up and more recent, like Google's been trying to hint at this for a long time. Like if you are not prioritizing photo uploads to your business profile, you are already behind.
Thanks.
And
oops. Oh, that's right.
It's me. Yep. So another really important consideration when you're optimizing your business listing are attributes. And there are so many attributes and counting. In this past year, we've noticed a ton getting added to listings, especially in the food and beverage industry. So if that's your industry, look at them, because there's no shortage of attributes to help you kind of optimize and refine what's offered at your business. And there's actually more that pop up every single month. So we actually recommend to customers to really be checking this on a regular basis, potentially even once a quarter. It's really important to kind of stay on top of this, because Google's basically just handing you these really great optimization opportunities to get your listing known for certain things that you offer and have in your location. Something else too is that we've noticed is there are actually some attributes that may only be available via API. So we've actually seen a number of attributes through the API that direct connect into Soci that we've actually not been able to see in the physical Google Business Profile listing. And so having those options are a really big benefit of working with a local listings provider to kind of scale out your optimizations.
I did want to add, there was a post, was it yesterday or the day before, from Darren Shaw, who runs the ranking report now, who did an update with a couple of the top ranking factors that he thinks are really important right now. And this has appeared now, which is really great because it kind of validates what we've been talking about for a while now. And it was good to see because it has been over a year now. I would expect the next one's probably going to come out in the fall, hopefully. So we'll see some of that. But again, there's a lot of things like attributes, photos, other things that are very obviously have become ranking factors. So it's great to be talking about this and that other SEOs, local SEOs, are validating this.
Totally.
Well, so this one I love talking about. As an SEO, I traditionally don't talk about social media. We don't think about it because social media traditionally hasn't influenced things like rank in organic and local results. But I've been seeing a lot of interesting things with social. And especially since Google has added the ability to add your social links to your Google business profile. At the time, it was kind of a really nice to have thing because in the past, if you wanted to get your social links associated with your profile, you needed to add a bunch of schema on your page. You needed to hope Google crawled it and added it. It might be right. It might be wrong. You really had no way to affect it directly. And so Google added this ability about this time last year. I think it was late June, early July. And when that happened, I started supposing certain things. I started thinking if Google is asking for these things directly, they probably want to get certain information from this, right? Right now, they use reviews and clicks and things like that as a really good way of looking at what is that difference between businesses, right? What authority and trust do they have with people, right? That they're not directly affecting. I look at social as another way to do that. That if they're looking, they want to look at these social channels, can we infer that Google wants to look at what they're posting to see what their expertise is, what their authority is through people liking and sharing and the trust that people have in them by, following them or rating that content. And earlier this year, I don't know if you noticed this, Google started visualizing these links right here as social media, like a little social media feed if you're doing direct search on your business. When this happened, actually, Google talked to us about, a couple of weeks before this happened and was really saying, hey, we'd really love more of your customers to be adding their social links. And what we said at the time was, we've been saying that, but we need something else to convince them, because if they're not seeing it besides that link, what can we tell them? And I asked if I could saying what I've been saying about this authority and trust, if I can say that. Now, I'm going to put a grain of salt on this. I was talking to the API team, not the search team, not the developers. But the API team said, no, that's something you could, it's a good assumption. Whether or not it's happening now, whether it happens in the future, it's a good assumption. Of course, it makes sense that we want to look at something like that. So I'm not making big breaking news that Google announced that this is something. I don't want to say that. I don't want to get anyone in trouble because they didn't say that directly. But the idea that that could be something they're going to be looking at is absolutely there. And in fact, we're going to be working with Google on some case studies around what the addition of this actually means. So,
and just to echo off of that, Mike, something that I kind of always say to everybody is that Google doesn't just do these things for the heck of it, right? Like Google's not just like deploying new things for you to add or update or write about just because they should. They want to know something. They feel it's aiding in both their own business interest and the customer experience. And they're going to continue to showcase features and different fields and things for us to fill out that mirror that. So we have to be kind of following those signals and updates. And, there's all kinds of speculation all the time of, well, is it truly a ranking factor? Is it not? At the end of the day, if Google's taking the time to put these things out there, make these updates, experiment with different things, we should be listening, trying, experimenting, and really taking advantage of and maximizing them.
100%. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah. Google Posts. So I feel like I have been talking about Google Posts for an eternity now, and you would be shocked at how many businesses are truly not taking advantage of them. The one thing I do want to say is I get it. There's not great reporting tied to Google Posts. In fact, I don't even know if there is Google Posts reporting anymore. There kind of used to be, and the metrics were really sketchy and you couldn't really trust them. But what I will say is it's an amazing brand moment, if anything. And it's definitely going to aid in your visibility and your customer experience, especially when we start talking about offer and event posts. So we are actually seeing offers and events showing up in search results and kind of their own unique quad pack in search results. So this example here was somebody searching for brunch near me, and the event posts that pop up were all timely events for brunch in the area, wherever the search was conducted. But something else that was interesting and why I say timely is one of the brunch posts was paired with like a Father's Day brunch, which at the time of pulling this screenshot, it was around Father's Day. So again, like that timeliness is relevant. Getting those posts up that are most I keep saying relevant, but most relevant to the time and space that you're in and what you're promoting and what you're offering, or if you're hosting events, so crucial and so important. You really, really should be maximizing this space.
And if I may add, one of the other reasons I feel this is very important is Google has been asking and talking about this all year. Their team really wants to see more businesses use this, and it makes sense, right? If more and more people are moving into social search, wouldn't you want to start creating experiences that mirror that a little bit more? And so highly recommend doing this. And in a lot of these cases, these businesses that are appearing are not considered breakfast restaurants. Like if you look in the local pack, these are not businesses that are showing up in the local pack. This is businesses talking about other things that they offer that's relevant. And so it gives them another opportunity to be found, maybe in a type of restaurant that they wouldn't normally be found for. And although this is only really happening for restaurants at this point, the API team did kind of hint that this is probably coming for more. And I think the only roadblock is more businesses need to be taking advantage of it.
Totally. Something else that more businesses need to be taking advantage of is Q&A. I often talk about these two strategies together. Q&A is underutilized in the marketplace. And what I mean by that is there's kind of two different functions that you can do with this. Your customers are going to be asking questions on your listings, and they expect you to answer. And if you don't answer, some random person online or some random Google guide or somebody might answer on your behalf, and it might not be an answer that you align with. So it's really important to meet customers where they are in the Q&A. But that's only one half of the story. The other half of the strategy here is use Q&A to your advantage to seed your own questions and build your own FAQ. So ask questions of things that you want to be relevant for, and then answer those questions yourself to get that great content on your page. For example, if you are a restaurant and you offer brunch, but you're having a really hard time showing up for brunch, you can literally type the question, do you have brunch? And you can answer it, yes, on Saturdays and Sundays, starting at 9 a.m. or whatever that answer might be. And that's definitely going to help your appearance and your relevancy in search.
Yeah, we did a test with a property customer where we put up questions, what school districts are they zoned for? And they started showing up for searches. Now, not necessarily highly at the top, but they weren't showing up in those searches previously. So it means Google now understands something about them. Now, it still has to build up the relevance around that, but at least it's something that Google knows now. All right, and we get to the last part when there's the leaf blower next door. So hopefully everyone can hear me fine. This is where I'm going to jump back into the SEO, local SEO evangelist mode. This is something that I've been talking about a lot lately, and it kind of is a wrap up of everything we just talked about. That the future of search really is around this customer choice optimization. The idea of what features should we be using as a business, should we be taking advantage of, and what content should you be creating in order to be the best choice when a customer is presented with options in search results. Because what's good at being number one if you're not the most clickable? This is a great example right here. This was a K Motoring Auto is showing up on top. That's great. They're number one. But would anyone here actually click on this? When you have the other ones below that have pictures tell you how many cars they have in stock, right? Like forget the rating. That's just an infinitely better experience, right? You're going to get more information from there. And so this is why it's so important right now to not only think about showing up highly in search results because you want to be found, but I don't think it's about being number one, number two, number three anymore. I think people want more information there. If you really think about it, I probably should have added a poll question here. How many of you go, oh, this is the number one choice, I'm just going to click on it, right? It doesn't happen. You're looking for the best choice. I know I'm doing work on my house soon, and I am going deep in the local search results to make sure I get the right thing. And I'm looking for questions. I'm looking for photos. You have no idea how many service businesses that live and breathe by the photos of the things they do, that when they don't have a lot of reviews of people speaking to what they do, they're not uploading pictures that speak to what they do or putting a post of, look at this work we're doing on this house today, right? There's a way to engage with your customer and make people want to click on those. And it's a lot of work. It's hard, right? It takes a lot of doing. And we've talked about a lot of things. There are other things you could be doing. If you're a retail business, you should probably be taking advantage of Merchant Center. There's the product feature now that's out. If you're a restaurant, why not put on the delivery times? Like, yes, they might be the same time as your normal hours, but if someone searches delivery near me, they're getting your delivery hours. It validates that you're doing delivery or you're doing brunch. Like, use all of those things because it's just enhancing and adding to your site. I added a good example here of when this is all being done right. Gym with a pool near me. LA Fitness shows up number one. Maybe the ratings aren't the best, but they have a lot of them. It's kind of on the edge compared to the other ones. But when I dig into the listing, Google does all this work. Google is optimizing for the customer choice. And it's only doing that because it has the information, right? The attributes are saying, or the amenities are saying that they have a pool. There's a question that's being highlighted. Doesn't always work. I will say Google's going to Google. Sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the wording. And they're highlighting reviews that have this, right? Google is putting all the pieces together to help make you a good choice, but you need to help feed Google all that information. And so again, it's a lot of work. And you might go, well, how do I know to do this? How do I know when a new feature is out? This is where the question and the conversation inevitably leads to, how can I use AI to improve my SEO? Because I don't have time for all this, or I don't know what I should be doing. And so I'm going to hand this part off to you, Casey.
Yeah, I'll take it over. It seems like everybody in every industry is trying to figure out, how can I make my job easier? How can I maximize my time? And AI is just the glaring answer to everyone on how to do that, right? And in the world of SEO, there are certainly tools out there that will help provide you with keyword recommendations or generate content for you. Obviously, there's a bunch of content generation tools out there right now for, good, bad, or ugly. And then it can also, there's tools out there for opportunities, help you understand competition, things like that. But the challenge of all of these separate tools is that a great tool is one that will actually take your data and help maximize off of your data and not just what prompts you're inputting. It's a tool that will actually understand everything that you are as a business and that your competitors are, and then aiding in those recommendations for you. And one of the biggest problems in local SEO specifically is that scale problem, right? Like if you are managing hundreds of locations or thousands of locations, how do you deploy these strategies that Mike and I were just talking about at scale, but also make them kind of micro moments and hyper local in style? AI has the potential to fix that. And then we have another poll.
Excellent.
So the question asks, are you currently using a listing solution today? Oh, we have a different poll question posted though.
We do have a different poll question.
We can do that one. Yeah, let's ask this one. Unless, I don't know, up to the SEJ team. How do we want to?
So let's do this. Let's, how about if everyone answers in the chat, are they currently using a listing solution today, right? So if you're currently using a listing solution, please answer in the chat whether you are and if you're not. And then what we can do is we can launch the second poll that we have as well. So we're seeing quite a bit of yeses, quite a bit of nos.
Oh, someone said using Soshi. Woohoo!
Nice. So all kinds of answers going on here.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool.
And then would you like me to go ahead and launch the other poll that was set up in the system as well? Okay.
Sounds great.
So our third poll is, what challenges are you currently facing with your local SEO strategy? Keeping up with algorithm changes, managing multiple locations listings, or lack of in-house expertise and resources, which we've had 50 responses already. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results once we hit 100. Which should happen fairly quickly, given the amount of interaction on today's webinar, which has been exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. We'll go ahead and share now.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. This is really close. Okay. So 38% of the challenges are keeping up with the algorithm changes. 33 are managing multiple location listings. And then 29 are the lack of in-house expertise and resources. Which sounds like they may need a solution to help with that. So any thoughts there for either of the, and that's 120 responses thus far.
Yeah.
I was surprised on the first one because in local, algorithm changes come up, but it's more something that I tend to talk about more in organic. So it's something that, since we're talking local, I wasn't expecting to see that many.
I actually think that there's this notion in SEO to kind of panic every time somebody says, oh, Google had an algorithm update over the weekend, and here are the things that we're seeing, and here are the changes. I think what is kind of unique about the local space too is I oftentimes find that when there are algorithm updates, there tend to be almost like more opportunities in the local space. Anytime Google is kind of playing around with, how it's servicing results, local's been winning a lot lately. And so it's something that, yes, it's important to stay informed and understand and read something like Search Engine Journal and make sure that you're up to date on things that are happening in the industry. But I pretty much tell our customers, like, don't panic. Let's wait and see and analyze and make sure we understand what Google's doing, and then apply a strategy on top of it. We don't always have to be so quick to respond right away. Cool.
Right. So with that, Lauren, did you have?
I was going to say, very cool. And thank you so much for going over the addition of the social feeds within Google My Business. There's been so many different accounts that we've been updating recently. And I just think that Google Posts can become an afterthought, right? Whereas the social feeds let the user know more about what's going on within the business, announcements they may be making, things like that. So I just see this being an extremely important add-on and something definitely not to overlook.
100%.
Awesome. So it's really great, reading the chat and hearing your guys' answers, because what I want to do is spend the next couple of minutes actually introducing a new product that we launched here at Soci back in May called Genius Search. And ultimately what we recognize here at Soci is a lot of you, like if you're local managers or you're a multi-location brand, we realized how big the lift was that you guys were carrying to optimize your search at that local level, right? And we just knew there had to be a better way to sift through all the data, to keep up with the SEO changes, and to make these optimizations at the micro level, but also at scale at the same time. So that's what we did with Genius Search. And I'm going to walk you through what that product is and what it looks like, because it's really setting the foundation for, changing the local SEO game for you forever. So the first thing that we have with our Genius Search product is our world-class listings management product. And this is how you're going to be able to get that accuracy that you need, right? The distribution to all of the networks that you need. There's not just one, there's so many. You get the health check that you need to make sure everything's staying up to date. Ultimately, this part of Genius Search is giving you that foundational layer to get into each location and make sure you're keeping that critical data up to date. And then we go into real-time local data analytics. So what we're able to do with Genius Search is really go into each individual location and download a whole bunch of different data into our platform that's happening in real time, right? So we're not necessarily looking at what happened in the past, because that's not what matters to us. What matters is what people are searching for right now and today, right? What weather changes are taking place? Is there a hurricane coming? Is there a flood warning? Or, what type of actions are my competitors doing that are taking traffic away from my locations? And that's the type of data that we're able to pull into our platform here. And once we have all of those insights, what we're able to do is turn them into real actionable recommendations. So these are things that something like rewriting descriptions or adding additional categories based on Google's recent changes, or maybe we're saying you need to upload some more photos because people are really getting into that visual search. These are the types of recommendations that we're able to go ahead and put in front of you with Genius Search. And then one of the biggest components of the product is none of that means anything if we can't automate it for you, right? So these recommendations, this needs to be able to be as easy as pressing a button and having it instantly deployed. Something like this isn't going to work if you have to go location by location, make optimization after optimization on that one-by-one basis. That's not going to solve your guys' problem to the extent that we need it to. We needed this product to be as simple as, you get notified, you click a button, and you move on with your day, right? It had to be completely scalable. And that's really what we've done with, the magic of Genius Search, right? We're giving you a data scientist and that trained marketer at each and every location. So if you just kind of pause and think about that for a second and how powerful that is, right? This is the dream state that all of you guys are kind of talking about in the chat, right? You don't have the expertise, or you can't keep up with all the algorithm changes. There's so much data to shift through. What is the right optimization to be making? Genius Search is able to kind of take that on for you in a scalable way. And again, you don't have to necessarily just believe me when I come on here and say this. We have been in beta for quite a while with our product, and we have some incredible early adopters of our Genius Search product as well. And the initial results that we're seeing are absolutely astonishing. So we're sitting anywhere from like 80 to 95% acceptance rates, which essentially is telling us that these recommendations, they hit, right? They're resonating. These are the things and the updates that these teams would be making themselves. So Regal Nails here was one of our beta customers, and Genius Search was able to help them make 1,400 optimizations in the first month alone. And these aren't small changes, right? These are new descriptions, they're new photos, they're additional categories. These are things that would take, hundreds of hours to be able to do if we were doing this manually. And then we have, another really big brand, Kumon, who said, once we got Genius Search in front of them a few months ago, they told us, we never had this kind of insight and visibility into search optimization. They were completely blown away with how this works. So what I want to do over, the next couple of minutes or so is kind of give you a peek behind the curtain, make it kind of click, right? Your wires might be going, saying like, how is this possible? How is this doing this? So I want to kind of take you behind the scenes and show you what's making Genius Search genius. And ultimately, what we're doing is we're analyzing thousands and thousands of data sources and data signals at each and every location. And to make those signals most effective, we're going to use them in combination with each other. So we're not going to use them in isolation. And what that does is it makes sure that these recommendations are not only targeting those really high traffic keywords, but they're also going to remain extremely relevant to each location and each business offering as a whole. So I'm going to take you through this example here. It's super high level, it's generic, but it's going to make it click, I promise. So the first signal that we have here is Google introduces a category. It's eye care center. It's not on our listing today. Genius picks that up and is wondering, maybe this is going to be relevant. So what Genius does next is it turns to your social, it turns to your reviews. Well, what are customers posting about? And Genius recognizes, sure enough, people are posting about their eye care service that they had at your location. So now Genius knows it's onto something. But one last thing that it wants to look at is, do people care? Is this a high searched keyword? And sure enough, when we look at the search volume, we can see over 30,000 searches for eye care center in the last month. So with these types of insights, what we are able to do is Genius can now confidently provide the recommendation of adding eye care center as an additional category. And all you would have to do is just click a button. So again, I want to just pause there for a second because that is really powerful, right? I saw lots in the chat going on about, you manage 50 locations, hundreds of locations, like help me, I'm struggling here. This can be your answer, right? This is how AI can really help us when it comes to local SEO. And this is beautiful because, right, this is the automation and the simplicity of Genius Search, where multiple recommendations, multiple optimizations can be applied with the click of a button so that you're always being found by these customers. And then I do have a demo if we want to break out into the breakout room. If anybody wanted to see the product, in real life, see me click around, I'm happy to do so.
So we'll be launching the breakout room right now and then jumping into about 5 or 6 minutes of Q&A. So Jonathan behind the scenes should be launching a breakout room, which you will see a pop-up for. And then we can get into the Q&A. Is everyone seeing their breakout room pop up?
I didn't see it come through.
Okay. One moment, just having some behind the scenes. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty with starting the breakout room. It seems to be frozen.
Oh,
Let me try it on my side. One moment. Okay, breakout room pop has launched, and then Allison has moved over to the breakout room. So for more information and everything else, please go ahead and join there. And then on our side, with our remaining 5 minutes, let's go through some of the Q&A that we had come together. One big question that comes from Ryan is that how can they develop a strategy for multi-location 80 plus that's all based on the same domain? Would it make sense to boost local presence in every market and scale individual pieces of content for those locations, or just keep straight location pages that are associated with the same information that's available on the Google Business Profile?
So not knowing the industry that we're referring to has me a little lost on exactly how to respond. I will say it sounds like what he's potentially asking, and maybe I'm wrong, is around like, do I expand more from like a content perspective at the local level? Is that how you understand the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like maybe blog posts or more informative content about the area and what's involved in the area, things along those lines.
Got it. Yeah. So I think the one important thing to remember is that in local search, the primary intent, which is what I think really hard for even like some of our customers to grasp, the primary intent of local search is somebody going to your location or calling your service for you to come. It's more of like that physical thing. So I'm going to switch over to the concept of that, like calling for a service, because I think this is almost more relevant in like service area type businesses where they might have to optimize out and maximize their optimizations for what areas they serve. So maybe there are certain needs to dilute, I would say, like your local presence to make sure that you have the right kind of content associated with the areas and the types of services you provide. So I've seen strategies where maybe you are like an HVAC service and you want, pages that are optimized around like heating and furnace for the city of Pittsburgh, but then you also want maybe pages that are specifically optimized around like AC units, or even like I've seen them offer like vent cleaning services. Those are all kind of individual targets for the most part. So I think when there are individual things that you can target behind, it makes sense to kind of dilute your local presence in that way from a content strategy.
That makes sense. We also had another of questions come up about the photos that are being used in the Google Business Profiles, especially for professional services, such as a bankruptcy attorney, legal attorney, personal injury, legal firms. What kind of photos do you think will help Google know that the law firm does this specific work? Is it just pictures of employees in the office or office pics, or is there anything else that can be uploaded from a photo perspective that can be helpful?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's hard from a search perspective because, again, it's a photo. How do you show that? I will say something that I found interesting in that same study I referenced earlier where Near Media was looking at physicians. They also looked at lawyers. So it's actually a great question to have now, where they saw in a lot of instances, people were skipping the directories and looking at the meta descriptions and title tags for something that spoke to what they were looking for. So this idea, and what they thought was interesting, is most websites for lawyers are very samey and very listy, rather than talking about, hey, we understand where you're coming from. We're going to do X, Y, and Z for you. And Google's really good at rewriting the meta descriptions anyway to meet what the search query is. So I think a lot of what, if you're in the law, in that kind of industry, is about having a lot of information for the customer on what it is you do. Because again, I think that falls into that customers aren't looking at who's ranking highest. They're looking at who has the information that is directly related to what it is I'm looking for. And I think that's about it.
To kind of restate that a little bit too, because maybe you have an industry where you can't exactly maximize your shelfies and post everything that you offer and everything that you do, have professional images on your listing. Get it to the fullest extent that is appropriate, that makes sense for you. And then, like Mike says, explore a lot of the other more relevant optimization strategies, like maximizing your website for the type of content and that kind of pulls you in type of copy that will help you in search.
Excellent. Another interesting question that comes in, and I've experienced this quite a bit in local search too, is that this one business has multiple locations, but they're all about 100 miles apart, right? With different towns and I don't know, vicinities in between. Is there a way that they can perform local SEO, not just for the city or the town that they're based in, but other surrounding areas as well? To kind of bridge that gap.
Maximizing like the service area of like that
Correct.
physical location. Yeah. So, I mean, Google business profiles allow you, I think, regardless of your listing type, to add the service areas that you work within. But it's also about building up that relevancy for those areas. So do you have the right kind of supporting content that lets crawlers know that that's an area that's inclusive of your business? So do you mention it on your website? Is it mentioned on your listing? Even asking those questions in Q&A, like, do you service this town even though your physical location is all the way here? Like, those are all things that can help aid in that like relevancy and authority in those surrounding areas.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. Excuse me. Also,
I actually wanted to add one thing, yes. And I'm sorry. One thing, we do know that proximity is still a problem, and I understand kind of trying to find those middle things. One thing we're testing right now is that posts and videos that are optimized for those areas that you want to appear in can appear very highly in search. I found a trash removal place in Seattle, near Seattle, that was appearing in my area because they had a post about trash removal in Lancaster or something like that. That was appearing highly in organic search results. So that's another way to be like, hey, we're doing a job out in X town today and posting about that. So.
Yeah, I've done this in the beauty school industry as well. So there's so many in X amount of cities, but then you have towns that are within a 20-minute drive, 30-minute drive, right? So not just listing them on the landing page, but also setting up specific landing pages for those towns and letting them know that, hey, this school, which is in a 30-minute drive of you, is your best solution for that. And then it starts to rank as well. Of course, there's no Google business profile listing for that because we wouldn't want to do that, but it is listed within the service areas and everything else. Which gets to our next question. How important is it for the data? One of the attendees, they don't have access to make changes on the client's site. And then sometimes that gets caught within development tickets and things like that. But if things like hours change, days of operations change, things like that, they can update it on the Google business profile side, but not on the site. How important is it for that data to match up?
The data has to be consistent. It's really important that you are mirroring your information because Google is checking both of those sources. If you are linking to a website that is showing one thing and your Google listing is showing another, that gets really confusing for crawlers. That's not a great experience whatsoever. I know that it can be a challenge. I have lived that challenge. I totally understand it. That's why it's really important to try to maximize your data efficiency to make sure that when you're sending information out to your website, that it's also reflective in your directories as well.
Yeah, I've seen Google create duplicate listings when a couple hours and like a little bit of the address was off. Like that mismatch can create a whole lot of problems beyond just not having that match for a customer experience.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I wanted to thank both of you so much, Mike and Casey. Today has been wonderful. A ton of information from SOCI, and we've gotten so many more questions that have come in that we'll be sending over to you. Just as a reminder, we will have we will be sending out the video, slides, and then a recap of everything else that we've gone through today. And if there's any questions that we haven't had a chance to get to, we'll definitely be sending those over as well to see if we can do some follow-up on that side. Allison, I see you're back. How was the breakout room?
It was great. I told them right at the top of the hour, I was like, if they can take off the main room, we're going to get cut off. So I'm sorry in advance, but you guys kept it lucky for us. We were able to get through the whole thing.
Awesome. So we're about 5 minutes over. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time today to share all of this great information. Our next SEJ webinar is going to be on technical SEO best practices, brought to you by Conductor. That's going to be on Wednesday, July 17th. And again, Casey, Allison, and Mike, it's been a pleasure hosting all of you today. We'll be sending out more information with the recap. And thanks a lot for taking your time out and sharing this with our SEJ webinar audience.
Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.